And good morning, everyone, and welcome to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. My name is Alexi Boyd from Boyd Office Management Services, proud supporters of Triple H. Happy to be with you for another week talking about all things small business. We've got quite a packed show today. We're going to be talking a lot about processes and procedures, one of my favourite topics, and talking about admin, which is a subject we've been covering over the last few weeks. My regular listeners will know that we had Linda Eagleton come in the program a couple of weeks ago, and we had a great discussion about the importance of getting your admin under control at this time of year in particular, for financial reasons, for mental health reasons, and also for starting afresh with a new year. So, keeping on that topic, I thought it would be a good idea to refresh some processes and procedures which are pretty fundamental for all businesses. We cover them a lot in our other programs when we talk about bookkeeping and admin in general, but I've got some great tips today taking everyone through some pretty typical processes and some strategies you might want to implement when starting those off. So let's have a look at what we've talked about in the last couple of weeks. So as I mentioned, we've talked to Linda. We talked about admin, and I want to refresh what everybody was thinking in terms of just mental health and admin. I know this sounds absolutely diabolically wacky, and it's easy for me to sit here as an admin expert, as someone who is passionate about being organised and keeping businesses organised. It's pretty easy for me to sit there and say, well, you know, everyone just get it together. But it is actually something you should strive for in your business, if for no other reason other than you feel under control. I've had a number of clients through my offices in the last few weeks where I've assisted them to just simply to get their books under control for the end of financial year. And I want you to all imagine what it must be like to have all of your bookkeeping and your finances done by the 30th of July. Just imagine that. Your BAS is lodged, your BAS is paid, well, may not be paid, but you can spread out those payments with the ATO, and you are handing over your books to your accountant 1 month after the end of financial year, and you know exactly what's going on with your business, and you're ready to sit down with your accountant and do some tax planning for future years. Now, I think the majority of businesses don't do that because we are given extra time. You know, if you lodge your BAS through a BAS agent or an ATO, a tax agent, you get an extra 3 weeks. We don't really have to do our tax until May next year, but that's not a very good place to be when it comes to running a business, for the simple fact that you just don't know what's going on with your business. I'll give you another example. One of my clients came up to me the other day and said, look, I don't know if what I'm doing is right. I don't know if I'm making enough money. And it is a business decision that he can make with the facts and figures in front of him. If you don't have the information in front of you, if you don't know how much you made last year, and I'm not talking about how much you invoiced, I'm talking about how much you invoiced minus your overheads, minus your costs of sales, and that is your bottom line figure that you're going to be taxed on. That's the figure that you should be looking at year on year. It's the figure you should be looking at month on month. And if you're not familiar with those figures, you can't make rational and logical business decisions because you just don't have all the information in front of you. So my client said to me, I'm not sure if this is where I want to be. I'm not sure if this is what I want to do. And I said, that's okay. At least you're making the decision with every piece of information that you can possibly get your hands on. And you can decide if at this stage of your life is where, if this is what you want to be doing, or if you want to be working like a dog for 80 hours a week and earning all your money now and saving for later. Or do you want to be doing more creative, more interesting things and spending more time with your kids? Those are all business decisions, especially small businesses make. But they're not decisions you can make unless you've got the information in front of you. So let me reiterate to everyone, the reason why I'm going on about admin and I'm talking about processes and I'm talking about end-of-year financials and bookkeeping and talking to your accountant now is because this is it's the rounding off of a financial year. It's a logical time to do it, and it's a good way to start afresh and to start the new year with a fresh set of eyes, just knowing what's going on. So a really good rip off the Band-Aid effect would be actually just go ahead and make that appointment with your accountant. Say 3 weeks' time. That's it. I've given myself a deadline. I need to have everything up to date, and I need to hand over everything to my accountant for the full year on that date. And it's amazing what we'll do when we've got deadlines. So bringing us back to processes and procedures today, I just wanted to give you some tips about how to make very good process documents. Now, this doesn't have to be a software-driven activity. You don't need to sit there and say, right, okay, I'm going to start with a formatted Word document, and then it's going to be pre-filled, and I'm just going to add to it. So I have to go off to the internet and I have to Google it. It's actually not that complex. It is basically a list on steroids, and it's a chronological list. The thing that makes process documents a little bit different from to-do lists, for example, is that they are chronological. They're literally the process that you go through, for example, when you are hiring an employee, or the process you go through when you set up a new client. Let's use that as an example, because for many of us, a fresh new financial year might have brought new clients to you because they were thinking, oh, I'll just wait till the end of financial year, then I'll start afresh, and they're starting afresh with you. So it's a logical time. If you've got that brand new client, you've been in business for a couple of years, you know what you're doing, and it's all up here in your head. Well, it's time to get it down into a chronological process document. Use them as an example and use them as a guinea pig, if you will. And actually, as you go through the process of taking them through the initial consultation, the engagement, taking them through the step-by-step process of what you're going to do for them, and talking about timelines and talking about budget, write down what you do as you do it. It doesn't have to be complex, as I said, very basic. It doesn't even have to be a Word document. It can just be in notes, or it can just be in text edit. But as you do something, every single little step, you just jot that down. So number one, you re-engage with them. They said, oh, give me a call after the financial year. Good, done. Did you call them or did you email them? Next step, you set up an appointment. It really is that step-by-step finicky. And the reason for that is because maybe you're about to step into a big consultation job where you're not going to do any work with clients for 3 months. And then you go back to the client work again. You go, oh my God, I can't remember what that step-by-step process is. And things happen. You can leave things on the back shelf for a while and then come back to them. If you've got that process document, then that can form the basis of your customer relationship management. And if you've got the process gone from the beginning, the very, very first engagement, all the way through the completion of the job and the invoicing for one client as an example, as your template document, that can actually become your customer relationship management process for everyone. And you keep tweaking it. So I have a manual that I use for the software that I use, which is Xero. Now, I don't use the manual that they give me. I don't use any, step-by-step processes that they give me on their website. It's me, and it's how I use the program. So I keep tweaking that document. Every time I use the piece of software and I discover something new, because let's face it, we're not all experts. We're not all 100% know exactly what we're doing all the time. We're constantly tweaking our processes and procedures. I dive back into that document and I just dump what just happened, just in my mind, because it was something different. It was something a bit weird. I'm just going to pop it in there because I may not do that weird process with another client for another 2 years, and I will have totally forgotten what that was. And that brings me back to why it is so important to have processes and procedural documents, because a lot of time can pass between doing that particular job and doing it again. And imagine the comfort that you can get knowing that this very specific, complicated process that you went through with this particular client can be replicated very easily because you've written down somewhere how the heck you did it the first time. So think about using processes and procedural documents, not because big picture stuff, you want to add value to your business. Don't forget that they do add an enormous value to your business. And not because you want to sell the business. That might be your plan in 5 or 10 years. You may want to give it to your kids. Who knows? But just for now, just from one client to the next, having that reliability of a document or a process that you can call back on. And let me tell you, even for someone who is very, very, very insanely process driven, I am constantly looking back on those documents just to make sure I haven't missed a step. It's helpful when you're handing over to someone else. It's very helpful, and this is something that Linda and I discussed a couple of weeks ago. It's very helpful when you are looking to bring on a contractor or someone to support you, or even someone to do your admin or your bookkeeping. And the reason for that is because we don't take on staff when we're really slow and things are really quiet. We take on staff when we are literally back against the wall, frantic, don't know what to do with ourselves, can't cope with the workload, don't want to lose clients, so I'm going to bring someone on who I need to train. Bad time to train people. Very bad. And even worse, if all those processes, operational procedures are up in your head, you won't have the time or the presence of mind to train someone properly, and therefore they're not going to feel empowered. They're not going to feel as though they're ready to start in your business straight away, and you're going to lose them. And then you will have wasted all that time attempting to train them up. So 3 very, very good reasons to have processes and procedures. Number 1, it adds value to your business. It makes it a sellable commodity because you've got documentation on how to run it. Number 2, you never know what's going to happen. You could be taken off running a small business because you've got this amazing job offer, which is only going to last 6 months, but then you need to go back to your business and remember how the heck it was that you dealt with all those clients and those processes. Number 3, if you take someone on, you need to be able to hand over whatever it is that you do to them, and all of that is in your head. So 3 very important reasons. So let's talk about a couple of examples of some good process and procedures documents. The one I always talk about is an induction procedure. Now, an induction procedure is not going to necessarily be for an employee. It doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to be for a brand newbie employee who really has no clue about how to work in the workforce. It can be for a contractor as well. So think about when they arrive, what is it that you're going to show them? What's the walkthrough going to look like? Where are the bathrooms? Where's the emergency exits? Where's the nearest food places? Do you buy them a coffee? It's again, it can start just as a very simple list of what you did the first time you brought someone on. But I think with this sort of thing, it's important that you plan ahead. A good idea is to talk to other businesses who are similar to yourself, another small business in your category, for instance, who may have done exactly this. How did they do it? What is it that makes it unique to your business that they need to know, particularly when it comes to software, particularly when it comes to logins and things that you use. And don't forget about the admin side of your business. This is something I think everyone always forgets. They write down in their job descriptions when they're advertising for a contractor or a new employee that you must know the software that I use every day. Well, how about they must know Google Drive? Or they must know how to operate in the cloud, or they must understand about security procedures and confidentiality with your clients. Those are things we don't necessarily think about until after the fact. And really, you need to have that as part of your induction process for all new people, not just, as I said, employees, but also contractors. And you need to give that some thought. It's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to say to people, oh, start making documents and just bung them on the desktop and we'll sort out where they go from there. No, that's really unsafe and not very secure for your documentation. Think about where you want people to behave in the cloud or in your soft copy world and teach them about your filing system in emails and in soft copies. And don't forget, when you set them up as an email address, and it's always a good idea to have them on a completely separate email address, not necessarily just them using their own personal ones while they're operating under you, because it does have security and confidentiality ramifications. When they are putting emails into storage, they're storing their emails into a filing system, get it to mirror your filing system. So if they leave, all of a sudden, you can find stuff really easily because it looks the same way as your emails do. So all of these processes and procedures are quite important when you are handing over to anyone. And as an admin consultant and anyone who's worked in admin and that side of even the corporate business, that's the first thing you want to know is how did the other person operate in this space and how can I replicate that to make sure that it's comfortable for everyone around me and who I deal with. You're listening to Small Biz Matters here on Triple H 100.1 FM. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about processes and procedures. I'm going to give you some examples apart from induction processes that you should, and I mean everyone should have in their business, even if it's just as simple as having a very short list that's chronological to begin with. So we'll be back after these community service announcements. You're listening to Triple H. Welcome back to Triple H. You're listening to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. And today we're talking all things process and procedures. And for those of you who's sitting there going, I just sit here and do my thing, this is actually the show for you, because we're talking about typical processes and procedures and how to go about implementing them in your business and why they're important. Let's talk a little bit more about processes and procedures and how much I adore them and why they are so important. So just before the break, we were talking about how you can do it. Basically, just start by writing a chronological list. And this is why a process document is different to, say, for example, an operational manual or just a list. It is actually chronological. And that's, in a way, makes it a little bit easier to get started, because you can start the process off and make that little list go as you continue on. Just to make that a little bit more clear, if you're setting up a new client and you're starting to engage with them and you see a job all the way through, why not write down what you do with that client as you go, so it can be replicated again and again, and you can tweak that system once you've got it up and running. So before the break, we were talking about a very good induction manual. Don't forget that an induction manual is not just about your staff. It can also be about contractors and anyone else who is beginning to work within your business. Think very carefully about how you operate in the cloud and how you operate with regards to your soft copies, your emails and your filing system on your computer, and make sure that that person has a replicated system. It's actually probably a really good time to engage with your IT support at this point if you are thinking about bringing someone on. As I mentioned before the break, it's a good idea for them to have a completely clean email account with you. You might want to consider giving them their own email address. It's not a complex procedure anymore, and it means that you hold on to all of that documentation yourself, and you can control it and make sure that it's being filed correctly and nothing's being deleted. And important stuff that relates to your business is held on to. So think about doing that, especially if that person is doing any client-facing work. Job descriptions. Now, this is something we often don't think about. And when it comes to trying to hire someone and you find that something like seek.com.au demands a job description to be attached to the job ad, we'll just jump onto Google and we'll find something that vaguely resembles what it is that we're doing. But once again, as anyone in small business will tell you, your business is very unique. Even in the sector that you work in, many of us have our own niche. That's what makes us different and makes us stand out from the crowd. So if your business is so unique and niche, those job descriptions should be as well. Sure, grab a job description out of Google to start with, but you really do need to make it your own and make sure that you file these job descriptions somewhere safe so you can easily access them again. Because I guarantee you, once you start hiring and you realise how much it frees up your own time to look for more work and grow your business, you'll be doing it again and again. So there's a really good example of why you need to have a good soft copy system in place and filing things away where you can easily find them. Just speaking about filing, because this does impact processes and procedures, what I find a lot of businesses do is badly label documents. They don't take the time, and when I say the time, I mean a whopping 10 seconds, to think about what they want this document to be called. And quite often, it'll just be the first line of the document. I'm not sure if you're aware, if you create a Word document and you just save it, it'll just pick up the first line. And in Excel, if you save an Excel document, it doesn't even name it at all. It just names it workbook. Take the time to actually label this document correctly. If it has something to do with dates, then put the date on it. And in fact, if it's a process document or a work in progress document, put the date at the end of it. Many of us use the word version, so V1, V2, V3 versions when we're creating new documents and overriding them. That's all fine and well if you can remember which one you're up to. But you can always remember the date. So if a few days has passed and you're amending a document, put the new date on the end of the document name. Don't rely on those dates that you see with the file description, because those can change if you make just one tweak. It's just going to call it an entire new date. You might get a little bit confused. But actually putting the date in the file name will help you look at chronologically what was the latest version. Just a little bit of a tip there when you're creating documents around your system. A how-to manual. Now, I mentioned before that with my piece of software, I have a manual that I've created myself, that if I do anything new and funky in there and I've never done it before for other clients, I just quickly jot down in a few bullet points what it is that I've just done and I give it a title. That way, if I do the same thing in 8 months' time, which I haven't done in between, it's very easy for me to find that how-to process. And I don't mean it needs to be complex. It's just literally 2 or 3 bullet points just to jot your memory as to what it is you did with this very interesting process. So your how-to manual, it can just be written by you. And it's amazing how when you begin this process, before you know it, the manual is 40 pages long as you keep building up your awareness and your knowledge. So the how-to manual doesn't just obviously have to be about software. It can be, how you engage with clients. If you're going to be taking on an apprentice, for example, the how to walk in the door and greet the clients. That's another great example of how you would like your employees or your contractors to behave when they are having face-to-face client. Basic forms around the office. Now, it is amazing how many people just don't have these on hand. And I don't mean hard copies, 20 hard copies sitting in a drawer somewhere. I mean available to you. So I recommend everyone when they come away from this show is to create an admin folder in amongst all of their soft copy folders for their documentation and start adding to that. So even if you just call it process document dash this piece of software or induction process for contractors, and just have those little documents sitting there so that as things pop into your head, you can quickly jot them down. Some other basic forms you should probably have on hand, although you can obviously get them very easily from the internet as well, is a super declaration form for your contractors and employees. Many of new businesses don't realise that when you take on an employee, you actually have to have them sign this super dec form. You don't send it anywhere. Where's the logic in that? But you do have to have it signed by both parties showing that you have asked them what their super details are, they have you documented it, and they've given it to you, and the date they gave it to you as well, because quite often businesses can get into trouble because their employees never gave them the superannuation details and therefore they didn't pay super, which is a big no-no. But if you've got documentation that shows, look, I filled it out and I handed it to them and I had it sitting there waiting for them to fill out and it was dated and they never filled it out, well, I'm not sure if the onus changes and it's still not your fault, but at least you've got some documentation to show that you did due diligence. So other basic forms you might want to have in the office are an emergency incident form. Here's a good one, because it's not really when an emergency situation happens that you necessarily know where to find those forms online. Or hang on, just stop bleeding for a second. I've just got to go to Google and download something. Not exactly what happens. So you might want to have a think about having an incident form in there. It is actually part of your compliance when it comes to work health and safety that you've got them on hand so you can complete them and do them as quickly as possible. I don't mean then and there while someone is in an emergency situation, of course, but if they are going, once the situation is over, while it's fresh in your mind, jot down exactly what happened and get everyone involved to make a note of what occurred. Other basic forms might include things like, if you've got government business support websites that you think are excellent, you might want to jot down which of those websites are really helpful. But the small business website in Victoria, oddly enough, is a bit of a go-to place for me when it comes to admin forms. They have some great templates that you can use. A lot of these forms are associated with HR and other people, but even if you're only yourself, it's a good idea to just know where they are so that if something happens and you need to suddenly grab one, you are aware of where they are. So not that we all have, a spare 2 hours here and there to do some admin research, but I'd be happy to help out anybody who needs that support. You can always get in touch with us on Facebook at Small Biz Matters Australia and let us know what you're trying to find. And hey, I'd be happy to help you out. And of course, the last one is a really good process document is your quoting process. So quite often you might have a list of really good suppliers that you draw upon for your cost of sales to then mark up and send on to your clients. But it's important that you have maybe some template emails around which ask for the quotation information that you actually need to get a proper brief from your client, and then the response. A lot of people simply do quotes in bodies of the email. It's not a very professional look. It's probably a good idea to spend some time creating a document which is actually a proposal document, and it's got a nice cover page with your website and all your contact details on it. It's got a full outline of what it is that you're going to do for that client and the cost ex GST, plus any parameters by which that quotation is available. So, the quotation is only available for 30 days, for example, or how many rounds of changes are available within that quote. That's a really important part of your quotation process, actually, that you stipulate, somebody can't just have a job going with you and create different parameters as they go and keep changing the goalposts and you're working to those changes, but in the original brief it's changed completely and therefore your quotation is not valid. All of those specifications need to be outlined in your proposal document. So you should be saying, look, I'm going to do this, but it's only if you get me this information within 2 weeks. Or I'm going to do this work, but you can only have 2 rounds of changes. If you're creating a document, for example, if you're a creative, 2 rounds of changes, and then after that, if the brief completely changes, then I have a right to requote, or additional hours are quoted at. That's actually really important, because if you put down what your additional hours are, you're also giving them the benefit of saying, oh, hey, I've got a set figure here. I can see the benefit in that. And I can also see the benefit in making sure that I brief this supplier properly and give them the information they need first, so that they're not having to do subsequent rounds of changes and then it's going to start costing me an hourly rate. So a few bits and pieces to think about when we're talking about quote manuals or the quote process, basic forms to have around the office, jobs descriptions, an induction manual. There's quite a few bits and pieces that you can have. And like I said, starting, it's not a huge task. It sounds massive when we say, oh, I've got to do this and I've got to do this and I've got to do this. It's actually not. The task is simply open up a blank and look, if you're more comfortable using pen and paper, go for it. You can always write these things out and then get someone to type them out for you later if you're no good at typing. All fine. There's lots of different ways it can be done. I just would suggest if you're going to do it in a hard copy that you also take photos of those hard copies just in case they disappear and then you've lost them forever, and it is a lot of work. And a lot of people, when they feel like they get things out of their head, that they are now out of their head and it's hard to remember. So think of it not as a massive task, but a series of smaller tasks. So you need to think that the business could quite seriously grind to a halt if anything was to happen to you. And if you have literally not a skerrit of anything to hand over to someone else, then your business essentially becomes valueless without you. And thinking again, what we were mentioning at the beginning of the show, thinking about bigger picture and 5 years' time and the possibility of making some money from your business as an entity and becoming a PTY Ltd, all of these processes and procedures form an integral part of adding value and the ability to hand this over to someone else if that is your intention. It also gives your clients a little bit more confidence in what it is that you're doing if they start to see the same process occur on a cyclical basis. So, for example, at Boyd Office Management Services, proud supporters of Triple H, I am a bookkeeper. I do the same thing for most of my clients every quarter. And they can see that it's the same. They feel that there's comfort in the fact that they know the process has been done properly. It's been done exactly the same way as last time, which was perfectly fine, and it will be done again and again that way. So you're giving your clients confidence in your processes and procedures too. Lots to think about today. I could talk about admin all day. I'll be back after these short messages from our sponsors. We're going to talk a little bit more about processes and procedures, wrap up the show, let you know how you can find out to listen to the podcast if you only just started listening and thought, oh my God, this is fabulous. I need to listen to the rest of the show. And we're back in the room. You're listening to Triple H 100.1 FM and Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. Let's take a quick look at our event calendar on the smallbizmatters.com.au website. It is, of course, an exhaustive list of all events coming up for small business. If you have an event coming up, that could be networking, it could be a workshop, it could be a business launch, an opportunity for other small businesses in the area to get together, please let us know. You can find us, as I said, at smallbizmatters.com.au, also on Facebook, Small Biz Matters Australia. I'm not on Twitter. I haven't got the time. It's too much going on. I can't possibly do another social media platform. In fact, I was in a wonderful little business the other day, just a quick little plug here, secondhand studio down at the back end of what is it, George? No, not George, the other side of George, Hunter Street, Hornsby. If anybody's not been in there yet, please go and have a look. They have the most eclectic, fabulous, constantly changing furniture and bits and pieces and wonderful eclectic stuff. And they're going to come on the show actually and talk to us about operating a small business in a place like Hornsby in a few weeks' time, which we're super excited about. But now, why was I going to talk about that? Because they're coming on the show. Yes, that's right. And how fabulous they were, it's very exciting. And in general, if you've got anything like that you'd like to showcase, I strongly encourage you to join the Chamber of Commerce. It's a great group of businesses. We are the voice of Hornsby the voice of small business in Hornsby, getting a lot of PR and media discussion points happening about small business. For those of you who don't know, Hornsby actually has one small business for every 12 people, which is one of the highest density of small businesses anywhere in New South Wales. So we need to have that voice and we need to be taken seriously. And one great way we can do that is by having a representative body such as the Chamber of Commerce. So I hope you enjoyed the show today, all about processes and procedures. And if you'd like to hear the rest of the show, if you missed any of it, you can jump on to the podcasts page, blogs and podcast page of Small Biz Matters. And all of our former podcasts are there as well. You may want to listen to the last few weeks, which has been all about admin. And so we've been building up to more and more information. A great time of year to think about processes, a great time of year to think about admin, because it is the end of financial year and starting into a new one. Although I can't say that for much longer because we're nearly at the end of July, would you believe? How time flies. So keep on top of everything, keep in control. And if you can't, hire someone that can, because often working with external consultants in the things that you haven't got strengths in is mainly the best money you've ever spent. So thanks very much for joining me today. As I mentioned, we will be back next week, 9 a.m. every Tuesday here on Triple H 100.1. You've been listening to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. I'm Alexi Boyd and I'll speak to you next week.